Queensland, the Sunshine State, where picturesque landscapes and extensive coastlines happily coincide with one another. People come from all over the world to bask in the beauty of this place we call home. It would be hard to imagine Queensland without its incredible scenery and diverse wildlife. Well, what if I was to tell you that there is something already degrading the ecosystems that surround us? Unfortunately, land clearing for grazing and crop cultivation is one of the major contributors to the environmental pressures that Queensland is currently facing.
When native vegetation is cleared and replaced by cropland or livestock, the consequences are often devastating to the natural ecosystems that existed prior to the clearing. Loss of native wildlife is a result of habitat destruction. Fertilizers and pesticides cause harmful nutrients to accumulate in waterways, impacting the health of both humans and marine life. Land clearing for grazing also contributes to global warming. Livestock produces high amounts of methane, enhancing Australia's greenhouse gas emissions. Although land clearing rates have dropped in the past 5 years in Australia, we're still clearing much more vegetation that is being replanted or that is regenerating naturally. If we are to prevent Queensland from becoming a region of barren landscapes, great effort must be made to restore integrity to the land that has already been affected. In this video, we will explore options for supporting and replenishing the land we depend on.
For policymakers to achieve significant progress in reducing land clearing, changes in consumer behavior are essential. The hope for sustainable land use relies heavily on radical change in consumption patterns and lifestyles, particularly in the developed countries, although changes to a more sustainable lifestyle are not easily achieved. A vital requirement for Queensland to succeed in this endeavour is consumers' active support and willing participation. When consumers decide to purchase a certain food product, they often base their choices on product value, the visual appearance, and product presentation. A case study in Denmark investigated which beliefs determine attitude toward buying organic produce, finding that they were positively associated with consequences for the environment, one's own health, and good taste, and negatively associated with a higher cost. Adjusting the relative prices of products is a typical method of regulating behavior within the economy. An important thing to note is that environmental pollution is not considered when valuing products. By means of taxation and subsidies from the Australian government, prices can be more in line with their true cost. If we are to decouple food production from the resulting environmental pressures, these changes in consumer behavior are essential. For example, if organic food products are almost the same prices as chemical-used products, which do you choose? This is an interesting organic shop whose slogan is affordable.
Well, we wanted to make affordable organics because health should be affordable and often organics can be very expensive.
We prepare staple boxes of fruit and veg for people. They can come by the shop and pick it up. They don't have to shop on the weekends anymore at the markets. Weekends are for family.
There are problems linked with pesticides. They've been linked to all kinds of disease. They're hormone disruptors, and it's a huge problem for the ecosystem. So we need to lighten the toxic load and eat organics.
People need to be talked to. Unless they're educated, how are they going to know? So all the time we're encouraging people and explaining things to them about what's in our cold room, what's in our fridge, and all the produce that we have and how it will benefit their bodies. What are the best organics to start their journey with?
In rural regions of Queensland, land use change is often down to the farmer's decision. Paving the way for a sustainable future in terms of land clearing, it depends on the actions of the landowners themselves. Creating more conservation areas is a potential solution for managing land use, but this largely comes down to the mindset of the landholders, ensuring that they participate. A case study of the Vegetation Incentive Schemes program in Queensland actually discussed some of the main drivers of non-participation, including the dislike for the requirement for permanent protection, and simply a lack of understanding about the program itself. By better informing the landholders of these processes and the impacts of their decisions, there is greater potential to gain their participation. If the government were to actually introduce compulsory mechanisms, such as restrictions on clearing vegetation, the farmers would actually have no choice but to follow these regulations. In relation to voluntary mechanisms, such as the carbon credit schemes, farmers have the decision whether to participate or not, which in hand relies on their ability and willingness to the program. One example could be the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act of 1999, which was actually implemented to protect Australia's important flora, fauna and ecological communities and natural heritage sites. If this act were to include more sustainable farming methods and land use management, the farmers would be legally obligated to comply with these regulations.
Queensland has over 27,500 agricultural businesses spanning over 75% of the state. It's been estimated that for the future we will need an additional 100 million hectares of land to provide enough food for our rising global population. At the current time, it is impossible to use more land for agriculture without causing problems. Offering our farmers better land management options could encourage the idea of sustainable land use practices. Permaculture, a great example of biomimicry, is a system of agricultural and social design principles centered around simulating the patterns and features observed in natural ecosystems where nothing is wasted. A permaculture farm requires less maintenance, less water, no pesticides, and essentially takes care of itself. This approach incorporates systems thinking, involving principles such as getting the most gain from the least effort and working with nature, not against it. It has been shown to solve erosion problems, increase soil productivity, and create wildlife habitat. If alternate land management options like permaculture methods were offered to farmers and landowners, we could create a much more sustainable way to feed Australia's population. Another interesting solution is vertical farming. As a higher percentage of the population live in urban locations, the pressure to produce more crops with minimal transport to the consumer has grown. An American professor named Dixon Despommier conducted studies on vertical farms. He suggests that one vertical farm acre could produce up to 10 soil-based acres. Using less water to grow crops and being less susceptible to disease and pestilence, vertical farms also require much less agro-mechanization to sustain operation. This is a great example of resource productivity, as a higher quantity of better quality food is being produced using much less space. Ignoring the benefits of water usage, minimal transport, community involvement, vertical farming is a great solution to preventing any further unnecessary land clearance.
Ultimately, the solutions we need to enhance environmental quality already exist and are in action all over the globe. Using the whole system design approach to spend a much greater time planning prior to clearance events will optimise the food production system in Queensland, potentially increasing productivity while improving the health of natural ecosystems. By aiming to change consumer behaviour, creating more areas of conservation and offering farmers alternative land management options and farming techniques, Queensland has the opportunity to reverse the damage caused by land clearing in the past 2 centuries.